You could blow my magic flute.
Oh my god, yes, there were so many great quotes from episode, what are we on here, 8? Episode 8, Rico, Better Call Saul. We're getting towards the end, there's only 10 episodes, so...
Say it ain't so.
Say it ain't so, it's coming towards the end of season, the first season if you can believe it, already, we're already done with the first season of this show. Quite impressive so far, but this one, even though it kind of looks slow from the previews, it had a lot of good content to it. We've got two simultaneous, for the first time, we've got two kind of simultaneous, or actually multiple, I'd say, plots going on. I mean, the two I'm talking about is Saul and Mike are the two plots I'm referring to, where Saul is, it seemed like it was a normal day for his elder care, and then it looks like he uncovered a little bit of a conspiracy, and that I love how he tried to get in there, and he's like, I could see you shredding in there, and like they just throw him out, and I'm like, it was so obvious, blatantly obvious.
Honestly, what are those two giant bouncers doing at a fucking elder care place?
Yeah,
they look like they're fucking working at a casino or some like nightclub. He's in there like pretending to take a crap, and like the lady comes to the door. Excuse me, you have to leave now.
Be very patient with you, sir.
Sir, you have to leave now.
Comes out with like the back.
I have this delegation. You have to, honor my request.
That was pretty badass though, him doing that whole big spiel, and then it just cuts straight to him being thrown out, and you're like, oh, first off, oh well.
Poor Saul.
And it kind of when that guy called him, it was going back to his whole he doesn't really have an image, but it's his brother. Like that guy was like, oh, the only reason I'm calling you is out of respect for your brother. Otherwise, I would just thrown this out the window, basically.
Yeah, you made that interesting comparison that once again it's his brother that's connecting him, and you even said about the case when his brother takes up the case about what were you saying about that with the money thing?
Well, I mean, it's kind of interesting because this is to start out with, this was the first time Saul's actually working with his brother.
Big steps for his brother, first of all. The fact that he autonomously at the end went outside, kind of breaking his little habit there.
Well, that was kind of different because he didn't even he was so wound up with the court case, he wasn't even thinking, so it wasn't affecting him psychologically because he wasn't thinking about it, and then he just when Saul says something, he snaps out of it and realizes that he's outside, and that's when it starts affecting. He's like, oh my god, I'm outside. It's kind of weird.
Yeah, and
case, it's the first time that Saul's working with his brother Chuck. But at the same the guy comes the big moneybags lawyer comes over as a representative for the whatever the elder care place is, the name of it that escapes me.
Oh, Cross or something.
Wasn't it? When it was the joke, wasn't it the joke the thing?
Saul's like, oh, Sandpiper has landed.
Yeah.
The fucking moneybag lawyers come up.
Yeah,
and obviously that one guy that had worked with Chuck on one case was trying to butter him up. He's like, oh yeah, you remember when I worked with you? Obviously he was trying to butter him up.
That was so obvious.
And they were like, okay, we'll write a check for $100,000 and let's part ways. So obviously as a viewer, you kind of understand, if they're willing to write a check for $100,000, that, you kind of know that something's up. And then Saul's like, I got this paper, and he pulls out their whatever you want to call it, their money in the smoking gun or whatever, the money in the bag. He pulls it out and he's like, we've got you because they had some interstate trade violation that worked with the case, the Rico law court case. And he's like, we got you now. And Chuck's like, yeah, we want $20 million. And Saul's kind of flabbergasted because originally he was saying, yeah, we could get $1 or $2 million, and then Chuck just comes out of nowhere, $20 million.
That was such a a Walter White Breaking Bad movie.
Right.
Just,
and it was so funny because he was just glued. He was glued to his seat. He didn't say a word, and the first words that come out of his mouth is the
$20 million.
The amount of money that comes.
You can kind of see just how scared Jimmy was, because this was his very first interrogation almost between lawyers about this here case, and he kept on looking over to Chuck for some support. But again, Chuck just kept on staring straight forward, didn't say a word, whether that was because of the nerves that he claimed at the very beginning, or because he was just doing an act the entire time, we don't know. But he kept on seeing Saul looking over towards him and being like, hey, can you help me out here? Because these guys were hammering all this stuff out. I'm like, okay, you caught us out here. We were overcharging them $46,000. we'll write you that out plus your expenses. I'll bring it up to $100,000. What do you think? And Jimmy's sitting there like, you know, like, and then he finally put this up because he went over to Chuck first to say, okay, is he gonna bring out this here, you know, trick card that we have? And then Chuck doesn't say anything, and then Saul eventually just goes, okay, I'll do it. And then he like took the lead. So you kind of seen Saul like, taking the lead in that partnership until, of course, Chuck drops the fucking bomb in the discussion, and that eventually forces him to go to court with these people. It seems.
But now I think we're gonna see in the next episode that I'm predicting that Chuck is gonna kind of take this case over, like, because before, like, initially they were gonna work on it together, but I think Chuck is gonna try and take this whole thing for himself.
In the previews that Pete hasn't seen, there's Saul. They're in that courtroom, and that's in episode 1. That's where they're hashing out the big battle, and you see Saul. Saul's in center stage, at least in the preview, hashing it out. And then the other thing we get in the preview, which we haven't talked about yet, is Mike. Like, someone puts a gun to Mike's head. I think something obviously drug related. I'm going to assume, as that was kind of how it was left when he was looking for the line of work. Jack and I were talking about this, about Mike's family obligations and how they really kind of come forth. They did in the episode where it was kind of his centered episode, but more so in this episode too, I'd say.
Because it was kind of interesting because when he was talking on his phone to his daughter-in-law, like, he closed the window and he just like waved that guy on, like, so, like, you know, like, we had for the first like 5 episodes, we saw how stingy and like to the rule book he was. Like, he would never let Saul leave without paying, and then he just waves this guy on. So, like, obviously that kind of shows how dedicated he is to his family. And then when he's there at the house and his daughter-in-law says, "Oh yeah, I don't know if I could use this money, but like it would really help, you know, but it would only be like a drop in the bucket." And like you kind of see like the expression on his face, like how he realizes that he kind of needs to like support them at any cost. And then by the end of the episode, he goes to that shady veterinarian guy, and he's obviously looking for other lines of work. So I think this is where we see him starting to dip into criminal activity to try and help pay for his family.
Yeah.
Do you think that is the connection between Mike and Gus?
Of all people to have a connection, a fucking vet?
No, it was funny. It was funny because I saw it was like weird because the veterinarian was like, he was talking about like people bringing in dogs, and he was like, "Oh yeah, I saw this one dog one time, you know, the breeder, like, it was bred so impurely, like, that, you know, it had like the whole stomach was like a giant knot, and it was terrible, and the dog couldn't walk." And he's like, "Oh yeah, I just want to, like those people should just die." And then as soon as he said that, like, he said that those people are like evil. He's like, "Oh yeah, so you want to do any work on the side? Like, I know some people." It's like, it's like, oh, so this shady fucking veterinarian is criticizing other people.
Well, to be fair, if you remember, this wasn't the first time that Mike and the vet had made up, because it almost seems as if this is going to be like a recurring thing now. That Mike goes with his dog, which, okay, Mike has a dog now, cool. But then Mike goes with his dog to the vet, because the vet, if you remember, was the person that stitched Mike up. In Mike, I just call it Mike's episode. In Mike's episode, whenever he got like shot, whenever he was killing the people that killed his son, he went to the same vet and like he stitched him up. That might have been the first time that they started, you know, talking about this kind of stuff. And now it's almost like a recurring thing where the vet knows what Mike does, kind of. And now this is whenever he's asking him, "Do you want to do more? Because I know a guy." It's almost like Breaking Bad and the Better Call Saul universe just consists of people who know a guy. Like every single.
It's that Soviet connection, yeah.
Oh, we know a guy.
Yeah.
I know. It just seems like the vet might know a guy. Could it be Gus?
Yeah, I'm thinking, will we get the return of Gustavo?
That might be good. A pretty good thing to throw in.
They haven't had. Have they had since Tuco? Have they had another Breaking Bad kind of esque person? They haven't yet, you know. So
I think they're probably going to introduce that by the finale, probably. Sometime.
Yeah, I think so. By the way, am I the only one that's kind of not annoyed, but kind of confused how Mike's daughter looks pretty old for 2002? Because if you remember, Breaking Bad takes place in like 2010, and the daughter was like 10. If Better Call Saul takes place in 2002, wouldn't she be like 3? She looks like she's like 6 in the TV show.
The granddaughter.
I don't know, how old was she in Breaking Bad? I don't. Was there an age?
I think they remember talking about it, but she definitely was like an old enough age to like be going to school and stuff.
I don't know. I gotta look that up. I don't know if that's a continuity.
If Better Call Saul takes place 8 years before, then she should be at least like less than 5.
Right.
I mean,
This
she
seems pretty
doesn't.
weird.
I mean, she doesn't really talk, but I don't know. I mean, I guess I'll look that up. Maybe there's somewhere that shows the age. I'm not
Yeah.
really sure about that, but the last scene I think I can talk that we can talk about, other than one of my favorite scenes, is where Saul passes out, and then when he wakes up, he sees his brother piecing
Oh my
together
God. Yeah,
all the
he
shredded
asked for
things.
coffee, and like by the time his brother comes back with coffee, he's just passed out on the floor.
Yeah,
because
and
he
that
spent,
I
like,
just thought that was so nice. I was like, not only was it a cool brotherly thing to do, but it was just cool to see him back in the game. It was just a cool feeling to see that kind of support right there, you know. And that was one of my favorite scenes
but
from that episode.
we
But
didn't. We forgot to talk about the very beginning.
yes, that was the last scene I was
Oh,
gonna
okay,
mention. Yeah,
And
yeah.
I called it though. Like when he was showing him the letter to his brother, he's like, oh, I bet it's the fact that he passed the bar or something, and he was like studying because he was obviously like working as janitor or like in the mailroom or some lowly position.
It also showed that he was in a relationship with that girl Kim.
Some kind of relationship. We have yet to discover to the extent of what it was and how it ended and whatnot.
Yep.
Because she's still close with because she cares about Chuck. Like whenever Saul talks about him, she's like even in this episode, she was wondering, oh, is Chuck really up to this? So like obviously they still have somewhat of a connection, just not on a purely romantic connection.
Yep. And then that scene with Hamlin, I think, was the big one, where
God,
this
Hamlin.
an interesting film shot,
Yeah,
you know,
I like that. It was a good
where
artsy shot.
there was the only audio was from the printer, and
Yeah,
the
scanning
shot
copies.
the shot just kind of stood, and you could see through the window to them talking, so you could only make out their gestures and facial expressions. And then by the audio where he's like, "You want the door open or closed," kind of thing.
We could only assume that Hamlin was a giant dick.
That was what a jackass.
Yeah,
like,
I mean, even from Chuck though, he didn't get the response obviously that he wanted because he just revealed that he passed the bar, and he was kind of expecting Chuck to be excited, and Chuck was kind of just like, yeah, that's great, you must have put a lot of time into that, and like Saul's like, so you'll hire me, right? And he's just like, yeah, sure, I'll hire you, but I have to check with the other people, so obviously that's not exactly what he wanted to hear. And we know that he
went in there to tell Chuck or to tell Jimmy that they didn't hire him. Then that must be in the news that he told them whenever.
Right, that's what I'm assuming. Yeah, and it's kind of
because the last thing is we'll renegotiate in 6 months.
Right.
So see if he's better after 6 months. See if he gets any work or anything. But I mean, at the same time, are you really gonna hire someone who's a janitor for like that amount of time? He then finally passes. He gets his law degree, and then he's just gonna immediately hire him. I think I could kind of understand where Hamlin was talking where it was coming from, but at the same time, Hamlin did steal some of his cake, which is messed up. Yeah. Come on, you go in there to give him some bad news and take his cake.
Yeah, yeah.
No, Hamlin's just a dick. He's always
I'm not a big fan of him. No, I don't like him.
But it was kind of interesting that like the only thing like it was like focused, like you could see what's going on through the window, but like the whole time it's right by the the copy scanner, and it's kind of like showing how like Saul's never really gonna like progress past being like the lowly like flipping copies stereotype, doing just the lowly grunt work.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Hamlin's here being the big douchebag, oh, I'll take the cake and eat it too, kind of mentality.
For the long term, Hamlin's not a character that's in Breaking Bad, so they can kill him off in so Better Call Saul.
Well, if you think about it, Chuck isn't in Breaking Bad either, so I mean.
Or Kim.
Or Kim, you see, like all these characters could die. You never know. Like it's crazy.
Yeah, the only people that are safe is Mike, Saul, and then
Mike's granddaughter,
and then Tuco, but I don't think we're gonna see him again. Even Nacho, he's not in Breaking Bad, so that could, we haven't seen him. Do you think Nacho will show up by the end?
Maybe he might, because I don't think they'll introduce him in the first half of the season, and then he'll just vanish after a while. It might be like what happened with what do you call the guy that helped out Walter White in Gus's lab, and the guy that got killed by Jesse. Spoilers: the guy that got killed by Jesse at the end of the season.
Spoilers.
What do you call it? Well, it might be like him, where the way you seen him whenever Walter first went into the lab, and then you didn't see him again until like the end of the season.
Are you talking about Todd, the one who works for Uncle Jack and the Nazis?
No,
no. He was the chemist.
Oh, Gale.
Gale, that's the one.
Yeah,
Gale, where like they introduced him at the beginning of the series. He vanishes for the middle of it, and then he comes back towards the end, just whenever he's needed.
Yeah.
So maybe not isn't needed yet, and then he might just come back and needs another favor from Saul.
Yes, he was needed so we could make fun of his music video. Oh my god.
Maybe, so I mean, It's still pretty. I mean, we're getting towards the end of the season, and knowing Breaking Bad, it's going to be something pretty. They always their season finales are always pretty mad. So I'm just wondering. It seems like from where it's going, they are going to go to court with these people. It'll be interesting to see what develops. Obviously, it's not going to be a smooth thing. It's not going to go cleanly. Something crazy is going to happen. If Mike's got a gun to his head, something's going to go down. But
Also, in terms of the big thing, why Chuck wasn't going back to Hamlin was because of his condition. Now that that Chuck's out, do you think Hamlin will go after him to work
yeah,
for him again?
he's still on Hamlin, if you remember. So can he really? Is what Kim was saying to Saul. She was like, can he actually take a case on by himself? Like, most of the time, whenever he takes a case, he has to take it under the Hamlin name. So maybe, if the case is $20 million, then I think Hamlin might step in and be like, oh, this is our
do you
case.
think there's something about that, about why he asked for the $20 million so they could break away? Do you think that? Like, because that's interesting to think about.
Well, in case he wanted to go. Well, what do you mean by that? Like,
well, like, is there some sort of interest that Chuck has with the $20 million? Like, other than the fact that he's going along fraudulent lines for getting the case done, like, the way they're doing it? Because they knew they were wrong, so they were trying to negotiate, but then they had the whole thing with the Nebraska to New Mexico, and then that was their whole thing, and that's how they got, Saul was like $2 million, but then they raised the stakes into, what this would actually be worth. But I'm just trying to think of where Chuck's interest for that lies,
what I think might happen in the next episode is Hamlin's going to come in, they're going to be like, no, Chuck, you work for us. Then Chuck has to make a decision, either stick with, if he even can, stick with Jimmy with the case, or his hands might be tied and he might have to work with Hamlin. Hamlin, as you've seen in the beginning of this episode, Hamlin don't want Jimmy, so they might just kick Jimmy out of this whole ordeal. Be like, thanks for gathering all the shredded data, but we don't need you anymore. We're the entire Hamlin.
Thanks for sleeping in a garbage can.
Oh my god, that was such a funny scene. Him digging through that fucking garbage.
He's like, I'm watching Mozart. What was it?
That whole scene, I love that scene where that douchebag other lawyer calls and was like, "Why are you whispering?" He's like, "Oh, I'm at the opera." He's like, "What are you singing?" "Oh, magic flute." It's like, "Oh, Mozart. That's great." It's like Nehemiah's fucking digging around in the nasty trash.
It's like fucking shit. Like
those two guys throw shit on him, and like, of course it happens to Saul. Like, he gets out and he's like, "Oh wait, I'll check the fucking recycling bin." Of course, he didn't have to dig through. Oh my god.
But so that's my prediction anyway. And then as for the court scenes, I think the court scenes in the next episode preview might indicate that Jimmy might stay with the case somehow. But I don't know. It's going to be interesting. Something's going to happen.
I'm predicting that Chuck is going to try and take control of it, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, definitely. And how is Mike's conflict going to wind into Saul? Because that's obviously going to happen. If it happened already with his whole thing with the two cops from Philadelphia. So it's got to. I'm betting it's going to happen again. So
Yeah.
But so scores for this episode.
I'll give it a 9. I liked it. It was good.
You give it a 9. Let's see. I don't know. 8.5. I'm gonna give it. I mean, it was good. It was a good episode. I liked that there was new plot details that were kind of heavy plot details, because it was good. It wasn't just. I didn't want an episode where Saul was just meagering around getting elder care stuff like this. The fact that he found this big gaping hole with this elder home. That it brought Chuck in was kind of cool that they linked those two kind of things together, which is cool.
You're on an allowance. What do you mean by that?
Yeah.
It's like, don't you have Social Security? And it's like...
Yep. So how about you, Pete? What's yours?
I'll probably give it an 8. I think.
Nate.
It didn't really keep up with the excitement. Well, I mean, it wasn't really supposed to be exciting anyway from the previous few episodes. Like, I mean, from the Mike episode and then the Kelman episode. And then going on to this, it kind of like took a step down. I think the reason being though is because the next episode and the finale is going to be mad.
They're building up to something.
So I think that I'm giving this one an 8, but I'm fully prepared to be giving the next episode a 9 or higher, and the finale will no doubt be a 9 or higher as well.
Well, that's what Jack and I said. The same for The Walking Dead, where we're kind of like not as much plot stuff happened,
like,
but
I can understand why they had this episode to be in this way, where they had to make an episode. But I think for an episode that had this much stuff going on, as in they had to convey that Chuck, cared a lot about his work. They had to convey that Jimmy wasn't really respected by Hamlin as a lawyer. They cared more about this janitor or whatever. Showing all that stuff is just all to build up into what's going to happen in the next 2 episodes. And I have faith in Gilligan and Gould or Gould, whatever his name is. Like for them 8 episodes, and I still don't know how to pronounce his surname. But I think that they're what they're doing here, and I'm fully expecting these next 2 episodes to be insane. Will we see Gus? I don't know. Will you see Nacho again? I don't know. Will they go nuts and show another crazy Breaking Bad character? We never know. But
Who
I
knows?
fully expect something crazy to be happening. Will
Yep.
one of the characters die? That's another big thing.
Who
Oh my
knows?
What
god!
do you think in season 1? Do you think any of the characters here will die? Any of like the side main
I
characters?
don't know. I mean, they showed it in the Mike episode, but that was a flashback. So who knows? I don't know.
Yeah, they weren't really like main characters. I'm talking like the people that you've seen in more than like 2 episodes.
Yeah, the worst we've had was where those two skateboarders got their legs broken.
Yeah,
That's about
that
it.
was a bit out of it. Like we haven't really seen much else. It's been very mild in the kill count department. But I mean, it's a TV series about a lawyer, so you're not really expecting a lot of like gunfights or anything.
Yeah, true. So
I think once Saul gets into the lawyer or the criminal business, that's
he's
you're going to see a lot
he's
more.
obviously gonna, once he gets into the deeper criminal doo doo, as we
Yeah,
want
that's
to
when it's
say,
going to get busy.
it's gonna get more intense probably.
exactly. So
Join one anyway.
yeah. All right. So thank you guys for watching. So we've got only 2 review episodes of this left next Monday and then the Monday after. It'll go kind of out of order because this Sunday is the final Walking Dead episode. So we'll have like 2 Sundays or one Sunday where we'll just have the Saul thing, and then that'll be our break from doing the TV show reviews for a while, and I guess we'll resume.
Pretty much.
We'll resume in the fall. I don't know. I mean, since we'll depending.
Find something else to do.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe there's a possibility that we might be able to do an in-person one of these, depending when the airing is of some of these episodes. Yeah, well, you never know. You never know. We might be able to pull it off, which would be interesting for the viewers. But we'll see. That's down the road. But for now, thank you guys for watching, and